Why is text in textbook? Why is textbook not just book? While I suppose it could contrast with a picture book, a book for academic purposes containing nothing but pictures would still be called a textbook. It doesn't appear that textbook is connected to the format of the content in a book, only to the purpose of the book. Sometimes text alone is used to refer to these books, but in that vein textbook is redundant, unless there is slash with some type of non-book text. The meat of this question is, when the term textbook was coined, at the time were there other types of books that text was meant to differentiate textbooks from? Was there some historical purpose for the redundancy? How did textbook come to be?
According to the OED, textbook derives from an obsolete sense of text, that is, text hand. 1730 N. Bailey Dict. Britannicum, folio, textbook, in universities, is a classic author written very wide by the students, to give room for an interpretation dictated by the master, and amp, c, to be inserted in the interlines. In other words, a textbook is a book written in a widely spaced format, i.e. in text hand. A fine large hand in writing. A. Original, one of the larger and more formal hands in which the text of a book was often written, as distinct from the smaller or more cursive hand appropriate to the gloss, etc. R. Home ACAD. Armory 3. 414 halves. These are the form of the letters, used by the Germans, and are termed the text hand letters. B. Now usually applied to a school hand written in lines about half an inch wide. Text hand, in other words, refers to the hand, script, used to represent the text, words and sentences in the original form and order, as distinguished from a commentary, marginal or other, or from annotations. Hence, in later use, the body of any treatise, the authoritative or formal part is distinguished from notes, appendices, introduction, and other explanatory or supplementary matter. Its size and spacing allows commentary to be written in between the lines. The origin of text is Latin via French, and as the commenters note, used originally of scripture and the like. From the same origin comes text writer, i.e. a professional writer of text hand, before the introduction of printing, later, an engrosser of legal documents, from which derives the modern meaning of the author of a legal textbook.
Thanks are due to Chaucer for their inspiring answer. I think we can paint a more complete picture with two more sources. Friedrich Kittler writes, in Discourse Networks 1800-1900, Stanford University Press, 1992, p. 155, that at the time of Republic or Scholars a lecture meant paraphrasing a standard text possessed by the professor and his students. Even in the early 18th century a textbook was still defined as a classic author written very wide by the students, to give room for an interpretation dictated by the master, and amp, c, to be inserted in the interlines, OED. And according to Nick Broom, in The Making of Percy's Relics, Clarendon Press, 1999, p. 69. In a 1765 dictionary, classic was derived from Johnson, a classic author being one that is placed in the first rank of credit among scholars. So, in those days, a university lecture meant the professor paraphrasing passages of text authored by some first-rate, well-respected authors, and the students jotting down the text, while leaving wide margins between lines, and possibly between words as well, so that the professor's annotations or interpretations of the passages can be inserted. In short, a textbook is a book for jotting down text, rather than a printed book of standard text. Also, as Fumblefingers has pointed out, textbooks in the old times are written by students, albeit authored by the others.
Just a guess. It's used in a classroom setting. Long ago there were no textbooks, there were at most notebooks, for example written by students. When textbooks came along the teacher used textbook to make the distinction. Another difference between notebooks and textbooks is that the former were, handwritten and the latter are printed. Printed text versus handwritten script. Again, just a guess.
If you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing.